I started working in Northern Ireland the best part of 20 years ago now, when there was a big piece of work to build the police service in Northern Ireland up to make sure that it reflected both communities and that it complied with human rights as a sort of core element of policing. And so I was here for 5 years in Northern Ireland, working with the policing board on that project. And therefore in Derry many, many times, enjoying working on that project, talking to communities, talking to police officers here, and getting to know Northern Ireland in a really, really deep way. And for me, I've always loved the people of Northern Ireland. I think everybody who actually spends any time here always will. And so much did I enjoy those 5 years of being here that when I got married, in the first year we got married, I brought my wife here because I kept talking to her about Northern Ireland. And so in the year we were married, we came here in the 1st August we were married and flew into Belfast, got a small car in Belfast, and then spent 3 weeks driving literally around the whole of the island of Ireland, including here through Derry, and so that my wife could appreciate what I was going on about when I kept saying this amazing place in Northern Ireland, you need to come and see the people, the friends I've made, the colleagues, and then see the rest of Ireland. It was fantastic. And then I think we were last here, Sarah, when we were together, a year and a bit, maybe the best part of 2 years ago now, when I think we'd just come out of lockdown. Yeah. And so I was back over here when we were over on Peace Bridge, which was really, really incredible. And what I took from my time in Northern Ireland was really important, because we all are asked, particularly politicians, you know, what made a difference to you, what shaped you, you know, which bits of what you've done in your life really changed your thinking. For me, my 5 years in Northern Ireland really, really changed my thinking for a number of reasons. I'd been a lawyer, an advocate, and as a lawyer and advocate, you're very often fighting the system. You're taking individual cases, you're trying to challenge people to change, and that's a really good thing. There have been amazing lawyers, human rights lawyers, who've done fantastic work. Coming to Northern Ireland was my first opportunity to work on the inside with the police, to say, well, let's not challenge on the outside, let's see whether we can work on the inside and change things in a different way. But it also exposed me to the very many people across Northern Ireland who were courageous, who were resilient, who were absolutely determined to do the difficult things to bring about change, to do something which actually, given the history, was very difficult, which is, how do I walk in somebody else's shoes? How do I actually bravely do that? Individual, collective acts of courage and resilience. And that was really inspiring for me to see, you know, the big things, but also the little things that people were doing to try to move things forward. And I found it a period of great hope and change in Northern Ireland. Even in the 5 years I was coming, things changed so much, and even every time I come back now, I see even more change going on, that hope and that change for the future. And this year's an important year for hope and change, because not only have we got the protocol, which, as you will have seen, was unveiled this week. My party is supporting the protocol. I think it's an important step in the right direction. And I hope that we can make progress. Of course, it'll take time, quite rightly, but I do think we can step forward. And it is the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, one of the greatest achievements, I think, politically, of many political parties, but for my political party, it's one of the proudest things of the last Labour government. When people say to me, what difference did it make to have a Labour government? What did you do when you were last in power? The Good Friday Agreement is right up there on my list of the things that we are proud of having done. So it's a really important year. And it is a year for looking back and reflecting on the incredible change, the incredible bravery that there was in signing that agreement and making it work, but also looking to the next 25 years and bringing with it that sense of hope and change, because we will go through this year and we'll go into next year. And next year, we will undoubtedly have a general election. And that's a big moment for the United Kingdom, a really, really big moment. And I feel very strongly, and you'd expect me to say this, after 13 years of, I think, failure and not moving forward in the way that we should have done, 13 years of finding points of division rather than points of unity, 13 years of missing opportunities to really take the United Kingdom forward. I think and I hope next year we get the chance to say to the electorate, do you want to carry on with this managed decline, or do you want to move forward with something else, that hope and change? And it will be hope and change, because I don't want a Labour government just to come in and manage things a little bit better maybe than the government we've had for the last 13 years. I want a Labour government to come in and to change things and to give people a sense of hope and how we're going forward. So you can say, actually, you know what, this is something that can help and shape me. And therefore, what I wanted to talk about this morning is, how does that affect you as young people here in Northern Ireland? My strong view is that if we're going to change and change for the better, we have to have a government that's completely focused and is able to say, these are the things that we want to achieve in government. And I've called it missions, a sort of mission-led government, a real sense of driving purpose. We're not in government because we like being in government. We're not in power because we like being in power. We're in for a purpose, which is to change things for the better. And there are a number of things I really think need changing. And the first one is economic growth, growing our economy, and by that I mean driving up living standards. And more than driving up living standards, making sure that everywhere people feel the benefit of that. I often feel, and you may feel this, there's a sense sometimes people have that if I've got to get on, I need to get out from where I am, and I think that destroys communities and places. And so I want an economy that drives forward. And I think here in Northern Ireland, Colin and I were talking about this morning, perhaps, and this is just a seed of a thought for all of you, as we reflect on the last 25 years, this year, as we inevitably do, perhaps we should also be saying, well, what about the next 25 years then? What does that mean economically for Northern Ireland? How do we drive that forward so that in 20 years, when somebody else is probably standing here talking to the next generation of students, say, well, look at what we did in the last 20 years in terms of driving those living standards up. So that's one of the things we absolutely want to drive towards. I think that'll make a big, big difference here. You know, is it infrastructure? Is it roads? Is it trains? How do we get those businesses, fantastic businesses in Derry? Peter Kyle came here and saw some of the brilliant things that are going on in some of the businesses here. So that technology, that innovation is all here. Another big driving mission is obviously we've got to have a health service that's fit for the future. At the moment we've got a health service which every winter goes through a crisis. And every winter we put a sticking plaster on it, and then we just about breathe in the summer, and then we get back into a crisis for the next winter. Can't keep going on like that. We need a health service fit for the future. And it's got to bring together physical health and mental health. And I know that for many of the young people here, I think when you had your school council, one of the issues you raised was mental health of students, of young people in this school. And I think I'm right in saying you've got mental health mentors who help with that. And I think that's one of the big issues as we go forward, as is climate change. You know, we've got an obligation in relation to the climate to preserve our planet for you and for the generation that come behind you, which is a heavy, heavy responsibility, but it's also a fantastic opportunity. It would be brilliant jobs of the future in the change that we have to go through in order to make our climate work. Another one, of course, is safety and security. You don't need me to tell you how important that is. If we don't have that basic security and peace and space for you to flourish, it is hard to flourish, and therefore that has to be a central driving mission of any government. And then the fifth thing is opportunity for every child, every young person, everywhere. And the everywhere is really important in all of this, because quite often when we talk about growing the economy or opportunities, we talk too much about one particular place. You know, it'll happen in London or the big cities. We've got to make sure it's across all of the United Kingdom, across all of Northern Ireland. I think huge, huge opportunities. So, you know, this is a time for me to enjoy being here. I much prefer being here, by the way, than being in Parliament. The days on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're in Parliament, ending with Prime Minister's questions about 12 o'clock. The best part of the week is about 12:30 when we finish PMQs. And I can leave Parliament then and get out and talk to you and communities and get across the United Kingdom.